Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everybody. My name is Wifdatul Ulya and I will be the first speaker. And my partner's name is Yuni Dwi S and she will be the second speaker. We are here this morning want to present the work paper by Marianne Celce-Murcia from the University California, USA. The title is Rethinking the Role of Communicative Competence in Language Teaching. In this paper, Celce-Murcia, who has headed up this project, want to synthesize and elaborate on their previous work, and which further explores the role of communicative competence in language teaching. Celce-Murcia, before that, Celce-Murcia has have many discussions with their colleagues concerning that topic. Includes in the mid of 1990s, their discussion resulted to publication. Communicative competence is a term coined by the anthropological linguist Delheims. He put forward this term from as the response to the theoretical of Noam Chomsky, who focused on linguistic competence and claimed that any consideration of social factors was outside the domain linguistic. Heims stated that besides linguistic competence, that explained what the role of for describing sound systems and for combining sounds into morphemes and morpheme into sentence, the people also need to understand the social-linguistic competence to explain the language use and also the language acquisition. Many linguists applied the theoretical of Heims about the communicative competence that become part of theoretical justification for a new language teaching approach that were compatible with communication as the goal of the second language teaching. Okay, it is the chronological evolution of communicative competence. For the first, we have Chomsky in 1957. He has only one model, it is linguistic competence. And then in 1967, Heims added sociolinguistic competence. So there are two models, linguistic competence and sociolinguistic competence. And after a few years later, Canale and Swain in 1980, they are modified sociolinguistic competence into strategic competence and sociolinguistic competence. And in 1983, Canale modified again the sociolinguistic competence into sociolinguistic competence and discourse competence. So in 1983, we have four models. The first one is grammatical competence, strategic competence, sociolinguistic competence, and discourse competence. And finally, Celce-Murcia et al. In 1995, they are modified sociolinguistic competence into two parts. They are sociolinguistic competence and actional competence that refers to the ability to comprehend and produce all significant speech act and speech accents, while the discourse competence refers to the ability to produce and interpret language beyond the sentence level. So in Celce-Murcia et al., we have five models. The first one is linguistic competence, and then strategic competence, sociolinguistic competence, actional competence, and discourse competence. Celce-Murcia et al. Indicated that there is the interrelationship of the various components of the communicative competence. Here there are two pictures. The first one is in the left side. It is the schematic representation of communicative competence that published in 1995, while the other side is in the right side is the picture of the revision of the picture in the left side. It is the model of the revision. It is the revision model of the picture in the left side. Here, the model is a pyramid enclosing a circle surrounded by another circle. The circle inside the pyramid is discourse competence as the core or central competence. And then the 3 points of the triangle are the top down and the bottom up. The top down is socio-cultural competence and the bottom up is linguistic competence and actional competence. The arrow indicates that the various components are constantly interacting each other and the discourse competence. This contract place the discourse component in a central position where the lexicogrammatical resources, the actional organizing skills, and the socio-cultural context all come together and shape the discourse. The circle surrounding the pyramid is strategic competence, and an available inventory of communicative, cognitive, and metacognitive strategies that allow a skilled interlocutor to negotiate meanings, resolve ambiguities, and to compensate for deficiencies in any of the other competencies. While the model in the right side is the revision of the picture, the model in the left side. The difference is only in the actional competence that are modified into formulae competence and interactional competence. And overall is the same. The difference is only in the formulae competence and interactional competence. Okay, right now we move to the socio-cultural competence. Socio-cultural competence is one of the competencies in the communicative competence. It refers to how to express message appropriately within the overall social and cultural context of communication. This includes knowledge of language variation with reference to socio-cultural norms of the target language. The socio-cultural competence is an ability to communicate in a language appropriately, situationally, and culturally. It is the knowledge of customs, rules, beliefs, and then principles of given society. And here, there are several socio-cultural variables. There are 3 of which are most crucial in terms of the current model. The first one is social contextual factors. It includes the participant's age, gender, status, social distance, and their relation to each other. While the second one is stylistic appropriateness. It refers to the politeness strategies. And the last one is cultural factors. It is the background knowledge of the target language group, major dialects, and so on. Okay, the next one is discourse competence. It refers to the selection, sequencing, and arrangement of words, structures, and utterances to achieve a unified spoken message. It is the knowledge of how to produce and comprehend oral or written text in the modes of speaking or writing and listening or reading respectively. It's knowing how to combine language structures into a cohesive and coherent oral or written text of different types. According to Celce-Murcia et al., there are several sub-areas of discourse competence. Those are, the first one is cohesion. Cohesion is convention regarding use of reference like anaphora or cataphora, and conjunction and lexical chains, and so on. While the next one is deicsis. It is the situational grounding achieved through use of personal pronouns, spatial terms, and textual reference, and so on. And the third is coherence. Coherence is expressing purpose or intent through appropriate content schemata, managing old and new information, maintaining temporal continuity, and etc. And the last one is generic structure. It is the formal schemata that allow the user to identify an oral discourse segment as a conversation narrative, interview, and etc. Then we move to the next slide. It is about the linguistic competence. Linguistic competence is the knowledge of the language, code like its grammar and vocabulary, and also of the convention of its written representation. This linguistic competence understanding and using for the first one is vocabulary and language convention like grammar, punctuation, spelling, and the third one is syntax. Actually, linguistic competence includes 4 types of knowledge. First, phonological, include both segmental and suprasegmental like vowels, consonants, syllables, stress, intonation, and so on. And the second is lexical. Lexical is the knowledge of both content words. It can be noun, verb, adjective, and action words like pronoun, determiner, preposition, and etc. And the third is morphological, includes part of speech, derivational processes. And then the last is syntactic, include phrase structure and also sentence types and etc. Okay, the next one is formally competence. It refers to those fixed and fabricated chunks of language that speakers use heavily in everyday interaction. It can be, there are many parts of the formally competence. The first one is routines. Routines is the fixed phrase like, of course, how do you do, how are you, I'm fine, and etc. And the second one is collocation. Collocation, it can be for object like play badminton, reading book, and etc. And then it also can be adverb adjective like statistically significant, and then mutually intelligible, and it can be adjective noun like tall building, good writing, and etc. And the third one is idioms. Idioms is like it is a piece of cake, that means it is so easy. And then the last one is lexical frames. For example, I'm looking for blah blah blah, and then see you later, and etc. Okay, we move to the next slide. It is about interactional competence. Interactional competence is extremely important because through this competence, the foreign language learner can be understand how to manage social introduction, how to complain, how to apologize, and so forth. Interactional competence has at least 3 sub-components relevant to the current model. The first one is actional competence. Actional competence is the knowledge of how to perform common speech act and speech act sets in the target language involving interaction such as information exchange, interpersonal exchange, expression of opinions and feelings, and so forth. And the second one is conversational competence. It refers to how to open and close conversation, how to establish and change topics, how to get hold the floor, how to interrupt, and so on. And the third one is non-verbal or paralinguistic competence. It can be touching and also the non-linguistic utterances with interactional import like yeah, and etc. Okay, and finally, we have strategic competence. It is the ability to recognize and repair communication breakdowns before, during, or after they occur. For instance, the speaker may not know a certain word, thus will plan to either paraphrase or ask what the word in the target language. It is the strategies for language learning and use are specific behaviors or thought processes that students use to enhance their own second language learning. These competence using techniques to overcome language gaps, plan and assess the effectiveness of communication, and also achieve conversation fluency. And the last is modify text for audience and purpose. And strategy competence have three the most important of learning strategies. The first one is cognitive. Cognitive is these are strategies making us of logic and analysis to help oneself learn a new language through outlining, summarizing, note-taking, and organizing. And the second one is metacognitive. These strategies involve planning one's learning by making time for homework or for preparation. And the third is memory related. These are strategies that help learners recall or retrieve words through the use of acronym, image, sounds, and etc. And the next is communication strategies. They include the following: achievement. Achievement is strategic of circumvention, approximation, and the second is stalling or time gaining. It using phrases like "Where was I? Could you repeat that?" And then the third is self-monitoring. It using phrases that allow for self-repair like "I mean." And the fourth is interacting. These are strategies that include appeals for help or clarification that involve meaning negotiation. And the last one is social. These strategies involve seeking out native speakers to practice with, actively looking for opportunities to use the target language. Okay, I think that's all from me, and for the next material will be presented by my partner Yuni Dwi S. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yuni Dwi S. Here I will present about model implies for language pedagogy. And the first one is about culture. Why culture is important in communicative competence? Because the language instructions must be integrated with cultural and cross-cultural instructions. And we know that the literature and other arts they are integral to the target culture should be parts of language instructions as basic knowledge of the history and geography associated with the target language community. And then the second one is the discourse and context. Why is it important? Because the goals of communicative strategies is suitable for learners to interpret and produce meaningful discourse, yet also to practice the phonological features, words, formulas, and grammatical structures. They are salient in the discourse, providing the content. And if the discourse and content selected for language instructions are accurate and authentic, with respect to the target language and culture, then the criticisms of artificiality can be avoided, and language learning has the potential to become a genuine exercise in communication. And then the language as system and language as formula should be balanced. Why? The learners is not only master on vocabulary and phrases for speaks, but also master on focus on grammar and pronunciation. That's why grammar and phonology is important as the socially functional oral communication. And that's why the systematic, formulaic, and interactional aspects of a language must all be addressed in effective language instructions. And then we have to focus on dynamic aspects of interaction. There are some ways to sensitize the learners to the target language use. And the first one is watch the segment without sound to observe, describe, and imitate nonverbal behaviors. And then listen to the segment, and then watch and listen to the intake segment several times in order to role play the segments or to perform a similar interaction. And in this case, the feedback from the teacher and peers is very useful. And the last one is the strategies from time to time. It means that learners who make an effective use of a range of language strategies can learn more and learn faster than learners who do not use a variety of language learning strategies. That's why teachers should regularly integrate some strategies, training, and some discussions of strategies into their language classes. Okay, after we know the 5 principles before, now we have the samples of lesson outline. And then the first one is general topic. For example, raising awareness of cross-cultural problems with guests. And then the next one is content focus. The content focus for the previous topic is the American OK sign. And then the grammatical focus is the use of should and shouldn't in giving and getting advice. And then the lexical focus, any new vocabulary in the recorded discourse of text. And then the materials of text and the gestures around the word. And the next is activities. For the activities is, for example, the comprehension check. Students match meanings of the gesture with countries or regions. And then the presentation. The students replay tape and practice any new vocabulary. After that is work play 1. Students work in pairs, pretending they are Americans. The objective is to use the OK gesture appropriately in a short exchange. And then the work play 2. It means the students work in small groups to prepare a conflict role-play where an American uses the OK gesture inappropriately in the country X, and some friends there give him or her advice. And the last one is discussion. And in this discussion, the teacher leads class in a discussions of other gestures that can differ from culture to culture. For example, in pointing, indicating yes or no with head movements. Okay, we already know the model and the sample lesson outline. We can conclude that the contents of a language course with communicative competence as its objective should be drawn from linguistic culture of anthropology, sociolinguistics, and other relevant areas of the social sciences and humanities. And we have some examples of tasks and activities designed to increase the interactions. The first one is eliciting information, so opinion via a telephone call or an email message in the target language. And then the second one is getting information by interviewing someone or surveying a group of people in the target language. And then the third one is summarizing the case of a discourse segment with a partner. And then the role playing a speech accent, perhaps developing a script for acting out the situation in class, and then developing writing an advertisement to sell a given product in the target language. And then the last one is writing and publishing class newsletter on cultural differences between the target language community and the first language community. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.